That was great. So as our final speaker, we have the privilege of inviting Jeff Swartz back up to the stage. I consider Jeff a bit of a role model, and actually I think that was a great segue. Jeff's going to talk a little bit about some of his dreams, and I think we can all learn a little bit about his experience at Timberland. So with that, Jeff, please.
It wasn't for getting dressed. That wasn't the role model of getting dressed. Look, I wrote my speech in an iPad, and there's a reason. I want to speak briefly at the end of the first day about purpose and passion. I hope the first day has been a good day for you. I know cards have been exchanged and ideas have been building. There's imagination and possibility in the room. I hope that's been your experience so far. I want to thank Ziv and all the people at Landmark for convening the right group of people, an incredibly talented group of people, an incredibly powerful group of thinkers and doers, financiers, Imagineers. It's extraordinarily impactful. And so I'm going to ask you to say thank you to our host for organizing us so far. Yeah, that was like the old speaker's trick. So I got two things so far: is iPads and hands, and I'll come back to that. I think about the network power that's in this room, not that network power. That was a little over my head in terms of mind sharing. I just think about practically what's in the room. I do think about it. I think about the products and the services that flow from your genius. I think of the jobs that follow your vision. I imagine the value being created, the wealth being assembled, and I wonder. 25 years ago, when I went to work for my dad in our family business, we were about products and services, the way you are about products and services. Passionate about your idea, we were passionate about ours. That's how we fed our family, and that's how we fed our dreams. But I knew from my grandfather two things. There is what you do, and there's how you do it. And so as the third generation in my family's business, I was very passionate about both. I cared about making outdoor products that people wanted to wear. I also cared about the process of making outdoor products. I cared about the impact on the environment. I cared about the basic human rights of the people working in our supply chain, whether they were in our factory in the Dominican Republic or somebody else's factory elsewhere in the world. I cared about the power of citizens to be involved in the civic square. And so I set out, talk about a dream, talk about a little bit loony today. In the earlier panel, Ken Stein from Boston Scientific described the guy who invented a defibrillator as laughed off the stage. Well, when I started talking about the idea of that commerce and justice were not antithetical notions, people thought I was loony. The CEO of a publicly traded company in the New York Stock Exchange grew up in the context of the classic business education. The business of a businessman or woman is to earn a profit for his or her shareholders, and anything else you do is a waste of the shareholders' time, and that's just flat out wrong. Same assertion that says the earth is flat. It's incomplete. It's inaccurate, it's inelegant, and it's worse. 25 years ago, I asserted with belief that commerce and justice were not antithetical notions, and we worked on that for the 30 years that I worked at Timberland. We granted every Timberland employee 40 hours of paid time to volunteer in his or her community. Our board thought we were nutty. Where's your productivity going to go? We invested in basic human rights for people in the value chain, which meant that the men and the women making the shoes that you wanted to buy from us, they were investing of themselves in the product because we were investing in them. We took environmental accountability almost as serious as our logo. Our logo was a tree, so it made good sense, right, that we wouldn't willfully and wantonly destroy the environment that people use our products in. And so we were thoughtful about the materials that we sourced, and we were thoughtful about the way we used energy, and we thought about trees, even reforesting parts of the world, whether it's China or it's Haiti. We thought that was part of our job. People thought we were crazy then, and they laughed us off the stage. But if you take even a cursory glance at most of the most admired brands, most of, not all of, back to my iPad in a minute, if you take a look at, even in a cursory way, at the most admired brands and businesses on earth, in any industry, you know from the data that your eyes will encounter that the business of the best businesses on earth includes active engagement in the civic square. I'm not talking about nice companies like Timberland. Family owns the company. Yes, it's publicly traded, but there's two classes of stock, and you could vote the board. Yep, that's true. That's not true at Starbucks. Howard Schultz is the leading voice of the company. He doesn't control the shares. And yet, Starbucks is a consumer-facing company that cares deeply about this. I know, but those are nice companies. It's sweet. They make coffee and boots, but not in the real world of technology like you live in, right? It's not true at Cisco. Actually, it is. They stand at the intersection of technology and social change, and they make a profit for their shareholders standing at the intersection of technology and social change. It doesn't make sense at GE. You saw that woman from GE. She's a pretty powerful person. They don't really care about that. It's about profits, right? She talked about that today. Have you looked at Eco-Imagination, where they talk about solving environmental challenges in order to create economic growth? Well, it gets a little harder to say it's a nice thing, but it's not relevant to me. I'm an entrepreneur trying to grow my business. I got things to do. Not at GE they don't. Not at Walmart they don't. Not at Cisco they don't. Actually, they do. If you look at almost every brand or business you admire, the CEO has recognized that it is important to be involved in the civic square. And so if you look at that, I think you end up having to ask yourself, what does this mean for me as an entrepreneur who is passionate about his or her idea? So I ask you, where in your business plan does purpose figure? Where in your battle to commercialize your idea, to grow your brand or scale your business, where in that passionate 20 hours a day, I got another meeting, honey, where in that model does this question of values fit in for you? I assert to you humbly but with conviction that the CEO today who is not conscious of the value of this question is at risk. To run your business or to build your brand today without conscious consideration of the very real responsibility the marketplace has to the civic square isn't merely naive, it's irresponsible. You fail your shareholders, you disappoint your employees, you leave your consumers unsatisfied. In short, I assert that the CEO who ignores her social accountability stands to lose her job. Did you see the news this week about Foxconn, or more precisely, Hon Hai Precision Industry, the electronics manufacturer in China? They announced that they're going to raise the wages of their employees 25%. I think that is such a nice thing. Do you ever do that? Do you ever just wake up one day and decide, I think I'll raise my employees' wages 25%? It must be because they love this relationship with Apple, the coolest products on earth. Or it could be they've been exploiting the hell out of their workers and getting away with it because Apple didn't care either. And so all of a sudden this week they're going to raise the wages of their workers by 25% wholesale. The same week that Apple decides to sign the Fair Label Association Act, which by the way, the worst companies in my industry signed 10 years ago, which is how meaningful FLA is. Now, I assert to you, Steve Jobses of the future, people who are building your brand and your business with passion and conviction, if the mighty Apple can't get away from being accountable to the risk of trampling on the rights of people in the workplace or despoiling the environment, why do you think you can? What CEO thinks that he or she is immune from that? Only a fool. You'd have to be mighty arrogant or Apple to think you could get away with that. The CEO, not mindful of the real business risk to his brand and business that flows from ignoring social issues, should take note. Even Apple is accountable. But I don't want to just talk about risk management because that sounds like if you do the wrong thing, you get your hands slapped. That's the American strategy of Sarbanes-Oxley. Sign the thing that says you didn't steal. That's a high moral standard. Great. I signed that as a public company. I thought, we can expect more from each other, can't we? GE's Eco-Imagination solves environmental challenges and creates profit for shareholders. Cisco stands at the intersection of technology and social change and creates profit for shareholders. Walmart focuses on sustainable business practice, lowering energy costs for their fleet, changing the lighting in their buildings, solar energy, not because it's a nice thing to do, but because they know empirically it will lower their costs and it creates a sustainable competitive advantage for them because they want to deliver everyday low cost. The CEO, unable to imagine the interaction of her brand and her business with the dynamism of the civic square, is missing game-changing opportunities to enhance their competitive position and earn outsized returns. At the end of day one, I hope you're energized by the potential in this assembly. I am too. I think about the products and the services, the jobs and the economic value that can flow from such innovators as you are. And I think, as I conclude, of a story that I hope will resonate a little bit. That's why I asked you to applaud before, not just to say thank you to Ziv and the Landmark folks for the hospitality. I wanted you to be conscious of your hands for a second. So I'll tell you a very quick story, and then we'll go to the bar. You ready? There was this old woman. Now, whenever I start a story like that, the American audience laughs because they think I'm going to say because she lived in a shoe, right? And I was in the shoe business, so there was an old woman, but you're Israelis, you don't get it. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to turn my iPad off now because it's out of energy anyways. There was an old woman, and she didn't live in a shoe. She lived in the south of Tel Aviv, or she lived in Bat Yam, or she lived in Cholon, or she lived in Yerucham. She lived in a tough neighborhood. She was an older woman. It was actually South Tel Aviv because the weather was nice, and she lived on the first floor, and she had not much. She wasn't in the street kvetching in the summertime. She didn't go outside to kvetch. Actually, when the protesters came out in the summer to demand more from the government with offering nothing in return, we expect more, right, from the government, which is letting us down, she didn't participate. What she did instead is she had the one possession that she really, really valued in life. It wasn't a possession, it was a belief. It was a little songbird. And so what she'd do with the songbird every morning is she'd open the window and she'd put the songbird in the window and the bird would sing as people walked by on the street. It would just sing, a song. That's all it had. That's all she had. That's the strength she had. She shared that strength. There were two young people in this neighborhood, and they had the same circumstances she had, but they had a different view of it. They did not think it was the job of the CEO to be involved in the civic square. They thought it was somebody else's job to feed the hungry and clothe the naked. It's the government's job. It's somebody else's. That's not my job. I'm trying to build my idea. I'm trying to build my brand. I'm busy. It's been a long day. Can we go to the bar? That's what these young people thought. And they were really angry that this woman had this gentle notion of, let me share what I have. And so these guys, they were entrepreneurs. They were sophisticated guys. They had a business plan. Their business plan was, we're going to steal the bird. But they were sophisticated guys. They had an exit strategy figured out even in the beginning of the proposition. They're going to steal the bird, and then they appeared before the woman. This is what they do. They steal the bird, and they appear before the woman. And they have their hand, they have the bird in their hand. This says, the woman, old woman, we have a question for you. And she says, yes. Is the bird alive, or is the bird dead? And so their plan was, if the woman said the bird is dead, they were going to open their hands and let the bird fly away. They get her a second time. And if she said the bird is alive, they were going to kill the bird and say, no, you see, the bird is dead. So they had they had the exit strategy worked out. They knew how to take the financing and get out. They knew where they were going. This is a very sophisticated plan, only they hadn't expected the wisdom of the old woman. Because the old woman understood that isn't the way it has to be. The old woman believed, as I did, and as I hope you do too, that we can earn our quarterly earnings. We can deliver superior returns to our shareholders. We can build products that we're proud of. We can have a heck of a good time doing it, and we can do it in a way that we can be proud of, in a sense that not only that our children will look at us and say, thank you, this is the world that we wanted to inherit, but so that our brothers and sisters to the left and right will say, aha, not 1% and 99%, but we together are responsible for the social network of the countries that we live in, the neighborhoods that we live in, the world that we want to live in. They said, this woman, is the bird alive or is the bird dead? And she said, I don't know. I said, I don't know if the bird's alive or dead, but this much I do know. The answer is in your hands. Right? And so I asked you to applaud because I wanted you to lighten up a little bit with the fingers. And so I ask you one last thing and I leave you in peace. Please just look for one quick second at your hands. Literally. They are the instruments of possibility. They are the basis that types the plan, that shakes the hand, that makes the gesture, that sells the plan, that invents the technology, that creates the inspiration, that calls others to the movement that you're trying to convene. It creates the excitement. They can be offered in friendship. They can be the tool of possibility. In your hands is great power. You spend all day handing cards to other people, selling your ideas, passionate about what you believe. I ask you to imagine if the strength of this room included in the conversation the role of the CEO, the technologist, the financier, in creating a society that we want to live in. If this room was bent to that purpose, we wouldn't have anything to complain about. We'd have a lot to be optimistic about. I appreciate the privilege and the power of this assembly, and I anticipate with great joy the energy that you will release with the hands that you have. As a society, we work to perfect together. Thanks, and have a great evening.
My name is Ralph Klein. I'm one of the founders of Landmark. Hi, Chaim. I'm going to talk for 95 seconds, and there is a 4 minutes video. Here it goes. We learn early in our lives that we have responsibilities. We have to be responsible for ourselves, friends, family, country. We also have to be responsible for people who are less fortunate than us. We have 2 non-profits here that Landmark supports. One is Kav Or, Kavor has computers in each hospital in Israel for kids who needs to be in hospitals for a long time to study with volunteers. They also have computers in old people homes. Again, these people are disconnected from the world, and it allows them to reconnect. The second is Sunrise. Sunrise is an organization that helps kids with cancer. Unfortunately, there are close to 1,000 kids like this in Israel every year. What they do is all kinds of activities through the year, but mostly a camp in the summer so they can behave and do what other kids are doing, and as well as their brothers and sisters. There is a 4-minute video that I would like you to listen to. And the last thing I wanted to say, our services are very expensive, but we give a discount to whoever helps these organizations. Thank you.